Welcome back to Morning Express. It's now 25 minutes to 8, time for us to review the week. Now, the week is coming to an end, and the week has had mixed events, from the unending KNH saga to the death of Sudan, the world's last male northern white rhino. Still this week, NASA senators successfully kicked out Moses Wetangula as Senate Minority Leader. And now, opposition leader Raila Odinga's efforts to save Wetangula appear to be hitting a dead end. Welcome to a Week in Review. I'll introduce the guests that we have this morning, and to my left, I have Mwange Ifedha, who is a political analyst. Good morning, and thank you for joining us. I also have Calvins Odoyo. Good morning.
Thank you.
Welcome, gentlemen. And we'd just like to start off with that issue that seems to be bedeviling NASA, and the fact that we have Moses Wetangula currently has been kicked out, but we see political jostling and maneuvering, and some would call it gerrymandering, and trying to get to the end of this. Let me start with you, Calvins, on your thoughts on what's happening in NASA. There are those who've pronounced NASA as dead. Do you think NASA is dead?
NASA is not dead, because I have had people accuse the NASA leader, Raila Odinga, of killing NASA. I don't think he has any intentions to kill NASA. People who are commentating on this issue are the ones who are not very honest. Recently, an MP said that NASA has 4 principles of who are all equal. Yet, all these principles, 3 are on one side, Raila Odinga is on the other. But these 3 are unable to rescue Wetangula. Wetangula also went to a meeting, where he was. He's a principal, he's a member of the Senate. Still, he was unable to rescue himself. The senators themselves said, this is our decision. It is not a decision of the principals. Even if you bring all the 4 here, we will still stand by our decisions. You remember, James Orengo did not canvass for the seat. He did not ask for it. It is the senators who decided that they have had enough of Wetangula and they have to remove him.
Are you saying or suggesting that Raila has nothing to do with it and is not aware? He's been also caught by surprise?
Let me tell you something about this thing. If Raila Odinga were to call each of the individual senators one by one and tell them, remove Wetangula, replace him with Orengo, by now we would have known. By now we would be having that clip circulating in the social media. This is what Raila Odinga told the senators. Because there would have been 1, 2, or 3 senators who wants Wetangula to remain in place. They would have leaked it.
Okay.
Well,
do you agree, Mwange?
Well, I want to make this very clear. First of all, I concur with my colleague here that NASA is not dead. You know, and we need to make this very clear. When you look at the coalition agreement, it is very clear as to when NASA should come to an end. NASA has actually 4 partners. We have Ford Kenya, we have ANC, we have Wiper, we have ODM. And none of them, in fact, the agreement, I think my colleague knows this, that that agreement is very clear that if it happens that one of the parties moves out, the remaining 3 will still continue with the coalition.
But Mwange, let's call a spade and not a big spoon. That is what is on paper. That is, and we know even the history of MOUs in this country. What is written on paper and what happens is different. When we look at NASA currently,
yes,
and the fact that, one, there was a feeling of betrayal. And this betrayal is not just by Raila, starting with 30th of January,
yes,
when the other 3 principals did not appear for the swearing in. Then again, Raila comes out and goes and meets Uhuru Kenyatta, behind their backs, as it were, and comes back to give them a report. There just seems to be something not right, as much as we want to.
Well, I think these are mere hiccups that can be resolved within the coalition. And as much as it is the case, there has been this story of betrayal and so on. I think most of the information that is out there in the public is not very clear on what transpired on the 30th. And you've seen stories coming out that the 3 principals were actually waiting for their colleague at a particular place, and their colleague did not communicate where he was, only to see him appearing at Uhuru Park to be sworn in. So there is a lot that we do not know about NASA, and I think the principals need to come out clear and tell us what transpired on the 30th, so that we can be able to tell whether NASA is still strong and charging forward or otherwise.
Okay. All right. Calvins, your thoughts on the fact that there are those who've possibly said that Raila may be behind Wetangula's ouster?
I think they are not being honest. But also, you must also remember the composition of the Senate vis-a-vis NASA. You remember we have 4 lawyer senators and 4 Luo senators. Assuming that he used tribalism to canvass and have it. And one of the Luo senators has been away for so long. So we have 3, and the lawyers are 4. How did he use this? If he used his influence as Raila Odinga, it would require him to communicate with each and every senator and ask them to do this thing. And there has been no evidence anywhere. The only evidence we have is Raila Odinga trying to rescue Wetangula. But let me put it this way also. Wetangula has no business fighting so hard for the seat. We have 4 principals. None of them hold any position. He can join them holding nothing. In any case, he's lucky. He sits in the Senate. Kalonzo Musyoka sits nowhere, Raila Odinga sits nowhere, and Mudavadi sits nowhere. Okay. And they are comfortable. So if he's worth his position as the principal, he must be ready
to forgo that.
And work from outside the system.
All right, do you agree that maybe he just needs to relax and let it be if that be the case?
Before I respond to that, let me also say this, that I think Raila Odinga is behind Wetangula's ouster.
What makes you
let
think
us
so?
be very honest. One, ODM controls the majority of the senators in the coalition. And I can tell you for sure that whatever influence that Raila Odinga used, we may not be able to say that he did not communicate to these senators. He might have organized in one way or the other, as much as my friend here is trying to tell us that
he's not aware.
He's not aware. Raila knows what is happening in the Senate.
So then
and if he really wanted to rescue his colleague, he has the powers to do so.
How would he do that? I mean, he tried yesterday by calling the senators all together, and it looks like they didn't come up with a solid way forward.
I think that meeting, if you asked me to be honest, was just a mere gimmick or PR exercise. This is just to try and make sure that Wetangula does not accuse Raila head-on that indeed is the one who is behind his
so he could be pretending so that it looks like he actually tried to do something about it.
Yeah.
But we do know Raila's character. He's not a coward. He's not the kind of person who'd be scared and would try to work things behind the scenes and then come and try and pretend to be something else in public.
I think Raila wants to cut down Wetangula to size. And that so that Wetangula can be at his beck and call all the time. Yeah.
Why would he want to do that? I mean, there are other ways of doing that other than removing him from the Senate.
You see, you should look at all these schemes in relation to 2022.
Okay.
And
I don't believe that. Even President Uhuru Kenyatta, who has all the tools and facilities to communicate discreetly, has to, from time to time, summon MPs or senators or whoever they are to State House and speak to them. Because those people are many. You cannot have a discreet communication between you and them without leakage. It is impossible. I do not know what these people want to see Raila Odinga do to know that he's trying to save Wetangula, or anything that he did to show that he was the one behind this thing. Nobody has any evidence, and I am very sure it is impossible to hide this. Their only means of communication is either by phone or send somebody to talk to them one by one. If this ever happened, today, I can tell you, Wetangula must have 3 or 4 allies who would leak this out. Nobody has come out with anything like that. So I am very certain that Raila Odinga has been trying to salvage Wetangula.
Let me say this, that as much as none of the senators has come forward and said that I've been in one way or the other convinced to vote against Wetangula, that does not mean that Raila is not behind Wetangula's ouster. We cannot use that
as full proof
that he is not. And then I would also want to say that if really Raila Odinga wanted to save Wetangula, or really wanted Wetangula to remain the minority leader in the Senate, by now he would have done it.
How?
It is very easy.
How?
The same way he ousted him.
He has
But
not done
you
so.
see-
Rallying his troops.
Your argument is that he ousted him, but that's
Rallying-
just
That is what
speculation.
we want you to prove.
That's speculation.
Rallying
Yeah.
his troops, rallying his troops, just the way he did.
But if
and
we-
you
if-
can see
if-
already, and you should look at this as a scheme that is already in place. Look at it already. Chris Wamalwa has been forewarned that we are also coming for your seat.
And whoever has done it is not Raila Odinga.
It is not Raila Odinga because Raila Odinga cannot do it himself. It is his allies. He has communicated to them. Please tell this other guy we are coming for him. And I think this is a
Mwangi-
scheme to try and reduce partners.
Yes, Mwangi-
there's been this debate. There's been this debate that within the NASA coalition we have unequal partners, which is not necessarily the case. We cannot say that Ford Kenya is a minor partner, and you can see that is the kind of thing.
But
They're
looking,
trying to be squeezed
but
into a
looking
corner.
at the numbers, really, ODM seems to command a big brother role already, just by the numbers, even if you look at the Senate. They're commanding a big brother role such that they could actually call the shots as senators. But let me come to you, Calvin. As much as you want to say that there is no evidence whatsoever that Raila is behind the ouster,
Yes.
he is the leader of Orange Democratic Movement. And Raila is not a weak leader.
Correct.
If he is as strong as he has always said, are you then suggesting that the senators have gone rogue and will not listen to their leader? Because then he called a meeting yesterday to try and save Wetangula, but that did not work.
I think Raila is avoiding being accused of being a dictator. If you were to call those people the way I have seen it being done in the past in other coalitions, come to Capitol Hill or wherever it is, and order them that I want you to do this and that, he would appear to be a dictator. This is a democratic election, and therefore these people have to make... Senators are not junior people. They are very senior people. They know what to decide on. In any case, Raila Odinga has nothing to lose, whether Wetangula is the leader or not. He has nothing to lose.
But there could be a game plan for 2022. Maybe it's in preparation for 2022. You may have nothing to lose right now, but if you look at capital mileage on politically speaking, there could be a game plan for 2022.
Let me say this. Wetangula has, his party, Ford Kenya, has only one senator in the whole country, and it is himself. Remember, in Bungoma, where Wetangula comes from, Jubilee has more senators than Wetangula's Ford Kenya. So Wetangula has no chance of inflicting any political damage on Raila Odinga anytime now or in the future.
Or in the future.
In fact, Wetangula owes that seat he holds to Raila Odinga. If he were not in NASA, he would have not even won that seat. You remember in the last elections, he struggled to win a by-election when the court ruled against him. In fact, he should actually thank Raila Odinga.
I think that is to overglorify Raila Odinga in terms of Wetangula being in the Senate. First of all, let us be very honest.
Yes.
There can only be one senator in Bungoma County, because Bungoma is one county, one elected senator. You're saying that where Wetangula comes from, there is only one senator. He comes from Bungoma County.
No,
there can only be one elected senator for Bungoma County. But to say that he should be grateful to Raila Odinga, look at it and let us be very honest. Ford Kenya has its stronghold as Bungoma County. And indeed, it is the case that for Raila Odinga to get votes in Bungoma County, Moses Wetangula had to actually plead with his people, convince them that please vote Raila Odinga. How many ODM MPs do we have in Bungoma County? None.
None.
Yes. So how can ODM be
so
so
what
strong?
did Wetangula deliver?
Huh?
What did Wetangula deliver for Raila Odinga?
The presidential votes.
Nothing.
The presidential votes.
Now, when we look at the figures, when we look at the numbers, there was not much.
Presidential votes are individual. Party seats, MP seats are party. Presidential votes are individually to Raila Odinga. He didn't deliver anything. So let's not glorify.
No.
And by the way, when I said Wetangula has only one seat, I meant the whole country, not really a county. The whole country, not county.
All right, so moving the conversation forward, Calvin, do you see a resolve in NASA? Because this, some have said, could be that straw, the last straw that broke the camel's back.
Let us
destroyed NASA.
Let us look at Kenyan politics now. There are no high stakes in the solution of NASA. There are no high stakes. In Kenya, coalitions are meant for political contests.
Actually, they're called special purpose vehicles.
Yes, they are meant for elections. You remember President Mwai Kibaki went on a knack that Raila Odinga cobbled in less than 6 months. In the next election, he went on PNU, which was cobbled in even much lesser time. President Uhuru Kenyatta was elected on a TNA ticket the last time. This time round, he went on Jubilee now as a party. There is no problem with NASA dissolving, and when we remain with a year or even less, we cobble another coalition and use it to go to the elections. People will change minds along the way. In any case, it is the Wetangulas who are known to change their minds much faster. I remember Wetangula in 2007. He told Raila Odinga, come to the negotiating table knowing that there's already a government in place. So you must negotiate outside the government. That time he had ditched Raila Odinga and went to join President Kibaki. Even Kalonzo did the same at one time. Even Mudavari did the same. If these were all forgivable, if there is anything Raila Odinga has done or is being purported to have done, that should also be forgiven on the same note.
On the same note.
I think we need to put things straight. In 2007, Wetangula was not a member of the ODM team. He was actually in NAC, sorry, in PNU. So when you say he had deserted Raila, that is not the case. In fact, you should be very clear that Wetangula only came to join forces with Raila in 2013. That was the first time that Wetangula was on the same side with Raila Odinga.
With Raila.
Yeah, so we need to make sure that we are telling the truth. Secondly, I want to say that in as far as the coalition lifespan is concerned, NASA is not a permanent coalition as such. It will be dissolved at one point.
At some point.
Yeah, if two partners walked out of NASA right now, it will stand dissolved. But if one walked out, it will still hold on until the next general election. I think before we get to the next general election, its term would have come to, its lifespan would have come to an end, and it would be automatically dissolved. However, the partners can decide maybe to sit down again on the table and decide whether they can still extend the lifespan of the coalition. Yeah.
All right. Moving forward, what do you see as the prospects for the three principles? There are those who've said that possibly with Raila looking like he is distant from them right now, they should, even at this point in time, take advantage and now as NASA, and having Raila maybe part of Jubilee, we don't know how far the negotiations have gone with Jubilee, maybe have him now on the other side.
The only person capable of dissolving NASA directly or indirectly is Raila Odinga because of the numbers. The whole thing is like a company with a board of 4 and shareholders the whole of Kenya. And in this board of 4, Raila Odinga wields more than 75% of shares. So it is impossible for any of this to purport or claim that they can dissolve NASA. If they went away and Raila Odinga remained, he will be the center of another coalition which will swallow that NASA if they went with it. So I can tell you for free, it is Raila Odinga who counts. Look at Busia. Busia has all MPs ODM except one.
I think that's not true.
It is true.
Honorable Bunyasi is an ANC member of parliament. Honorable Kaunya is an ANC member of parliament. They are both from Busia County.
But do you agree that...
But it is not a mistake. They are elected.
The main thing here is, do you agree that Raila possibly is the deal breaker for NASA? If he remains in NASA and continues with NASA, then NASA stands. As it stands right now, Raila Odinga is one of the NASA principals. And he's the former presidential. Yeah, they are equal. He's the former presidential candidate, and we need to know very well that because Raila Odinga was the coalition's presidential candidate, he really had a lot of influence on his candidates, the ODM candidates, being elected. If it was any other principle, maybe the same would be the case. It is wrong to imply that if Raila Odinga walked out of NASA, then NASA will come to an end. It does not actually hold.
That is not the case. These are 4 equal principles. To say that if Raila Odinga is the one who has the powers to dissolve, if the 3 decided that we are walking out of this thing, NASA will stand dissolved. And Raila Odinga might form another coalition, they might form theirs.
But what I said,
it is being dishonest.
If they walked away with NASA, I remember I said, if they walked away with NASA, Raila Odinga will remain here and form another coalition, which will be bigger than NASA and will swallow it. If you say,
it is an assumption it will be bigger.
These coalition partners are all the same, how come the 3 of them cannot save Wetangula? They still want Raila. They still accuse Raila of being the one behind it. That means Raila Odinga 1 is more powerful than the 3 put together. That is the truth.
No.
How can you say no is the truth?
It is not that they are not capable of saving Wetangula. They just want Raila Odinga to undo what he has done. They are telling him, gentlemen, you have done this. Can you go ahead and undo it?
In the Senate.
But
and they have not proved that he's talked to anyone. And these people can, if they are equal to Raila, one of them should be able to unwind what Raila Odinga did. The other 2 can give Wetangula any post they want to give.
If indeed there were equals amongst, there are 4 amongst equals,
yes.
The other 3 have been fairly silent concerning Wetangula. As in they seem helpless. I guess it's also because of the numbers. They don't have the numbers, so they can't whip their senators to do anything about it.
Well, we need to be very clear on this, that indeed it is the case that ODM has the majority of the senators and in the coalition, and that we are, these 3 principles do not have the numbers that can at least undo what the ODM senators have,
so how are they equal
done.
To Raila?
Now, that is not the parameter. Let me make my point clear.
Okay.
Now, that being the case, they're telling Raila Odinga, can you whip your members to tell them that they do not necessarily need to ouster Wetangula from this position? You've also asked me why why they are silent. I want to make it very clear. They're not silent on it. The other day, Mudavadi was very clear. He said that it is wrong to actually vote Wetangula out as the minority leader. Kalonzo has voiced his position on the same. And I think even yesterday, Kalonzo was trying to convince Raila that we need to help this principle and reinstate him back to his position. So they're trying to do something about it. But at the same time, they're holding Raila Odinga squarely and telling him, please, whip your troops the way you whipped them to ouster Wetangula, to reinstate him.
So if that be the case then, are we saying that Raila has been unable to whip them, or is he playing, poker behind the scenes, such that he's orchestrated Wetangula's ouster, but in the camera lenses, we are seeing him trying to call his senators together, but really behind the scenes, he doesn't want that to happen.
As I said, this is all a PR exercise. What Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka and Wetangula and the senators were doing yesterday is just trying to hoodwink the other principals and the other coalition partners. Raila Odinga is squarely behind Moses Wetangula's ouster, but he's trying to make it, to play in a manner that he would not be accused squarely. As I said, at the end of it all, if Raila Odinga wanted Wetangula to retain that seat, he will do it.
So the question then would be, before
and as I said, we need to look at these things in relation to the 2022 general elections. Raila Odinga is trying to cut Wetangula into size so that Wetangula can be at his beck and call.
So what is the game plan according to you?
Now, you see, the coalition clearly states that Raila Odinga should not, or rather will not be contesting, assuming that NASA, this gentleman, can sit back on the table and decide that we have evaluated how we performed and we think that we need to continue with this kind of relationship that we have, so we are extending the lifespan of NASA. It is very clear that Raila Odinga would not be the presidential candidate. It is within the interest of Raila Odinga to make sure that NASA is dissolved, NASA is broken completely, so that we can have another coalition where he would be able to contest. And by cutting people like Wetangula to size, he would want somebody like Wetangula to realize that he needs to shelve his presidential ambitions and support Raila Odinga.
Calvin.
You shock me because you have had here almost 30 minutes and you are unable to say how you believe Raila Odinga is behind this thing. No evidence.
How
no
do you believe he's not?
No explanation.
Can you explain
because
to us why
I have
you
no
think he's
evidence
not?
that he called anybody. I have no evidence that he had a meeting with anybody. I have no evidence that he sent
The fact
anyone.
that you do not have the evidence does
And
not
you who
mean
have
it is not the
put it on the
case.
table.
It is not the
You
case.
have put it on
I'm
the
telling
table.
you, he's the party leader of
Please,
ODM.
you don't have it,
He's
so
the
let's stop
party
there.
leader
Let's
of ODM.
let's
He
go
has
to
the
more
mandate
serious things.
All right.
to whip his
Let's
senators.
go to more serious things.
Calvin,
it is not possible that Raila Odinga would want to cut Wetangula to size.
I can tell you,
so that he wants to
these
be a,
things will come
so
out
that he wants
soon.
to be a candidate.
These things
in
will
the
come
future.
out.
All right, gentlemen, let's try and get some order here. Calvins, what do you think is a game plan for Raila for 2022? Because now for him to join hands with Jubilee, or the golden handshake as it is being called, basically it looks like he has shelved the agendas that he had before in terms of presidency.
I'm not sure which agendas you're talking about.
Presidency.
But
Well, current president, that is.
But as of now, Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta are in agreement that it is Kenya first. Uhuru has said more than twice that we must stop politicking and do development. Raila Odinga has joined him in that arrangement. It is not possible that we are going to have a country that for 5 years, people are politicking and politicking and politicking.
And jostling.
In this ship called Kenya, we are all in it together. Jubilee or no Jubilee, we are in it. So even if we let Uhuru go with the ship and it sinks, it will sink with all of us, whether we are in ODM, whether we are in NASA or Ford Kenya or wherever. So if Raila Odinga has joined Uhuru Kenyatta in a dialogue to steer Kenya forward, and we will do politics again in 2022. In any case, it doesn't matter whether we do it up to 2022 or wait until then.
Okay. I want us to conclude on this matter and go to other things. Mwange, just to get your thoughts, there is going to be a senators meeting in 2 weeks. What do you see that yielding? Do you think Wetangula will be back on his seat?
Well, unless Raila Odinga changes his mind, then Wetangula will get back his seat. But I would want to say that if I were Moses Wetangula, I would not go back to that position. Moses Wetangula is stronger without holding that position than when he's holding it.
Okay. Do you think there's going to be anything yielded out of that, Calvins?
There is going to be nothing yielded out of that position because it was decided by the very senators who are going to sit there. Now, incidental, even without the principals. So Wetangula, I think, case is sealed, and it has nothing negative for the NASA or anybody else.
All right, let's move on to other things. And one of the other things that was on the headlines this week is to do with Kenyatta National Hospital. We have the CS, Cecily Kariuki, basically was going to be impeached, but that was withdrawn. Let me start with you, Mwange, your thoughts on the KNH saga and what has been happening, and of course, what being the biggest referral hospital in the region, whether we are making progress.
Well, from the information that we've been getting, I think there's something wrong with what is happening at Kenyatta National Hospital. And this being a national referral hospital, which even serves the East African region, we really need to address the issues that are bedeviling it. And I think that the buck stops with the management of the hospital. What the CS did, sending away the CEO of Kenyatta Hospital, was a good move, Lily Koros, so that we can find out how can we be able to steer back this hospital on the right path. And I think it was in bad faith for members of parliament to even imagine that you can impeach the CS for actually performing.
For doing her work?
Yeah.
All right. Your thoughts on KNH?
I think KNH problems date back to decades. We are in a country where projects are determined on what the project implementers and initiators get out of it. We have a country where just a few years ago, medical equipment were bought worth 38 billion and none were sent to KNH. Yet some of the equipment required for smooth operations and the management of the hospital cost just a few millions, just a few, 10, 5. The most expensive, I think, is about 200 million. This we can do. We can buy this equipment. We can manage KNH better.
We
spend a lot of money on other projects that don't affect the local man.
What has stopped us from actually having KNH operate as it should? I was looking at an article not too long ago where apparently they don't even have a heart machine and a lung machine, which only costs, what, was it 200 million?
Yes.
Which is peanuts compared to how much money goes through that hospital.
It's simply because of what I said, my first sentence. The projects that we have in this country, what we buy, what we construct, is dependent on what the implementers and the initiators are going to get out of it. They would want to procure a road which goes nowhere because the implementers are going to get billions of it. But in KNH, which serves Kenyans, they don't want to do anything. I told you that 38 billion was spent on medical equipment. None went to Kenyatta. You know why? Because the ones that went to the counties were to pay back for it. KNH was not going to pay back because it's under the central government. So these are the issues that Cecily Kariuki should have sat down to investigate. What really is ailing this hospital? Because when you hear of a case and the next day you have fired somebody, I'm not saying Koros should have not been fired. She should have gone much earlier, even before Cecily Kariuki came. But after firing Koros, what has she done? What has she initiated? You need to initiate audit. In fact, for KNH, I wish we could have a public inquiry so that everybody who has gone through all funny things at the hospital can come out and say publicly that when I was here, this is what happened to me. I remember a case of somebody who went to Kenyatta National Hospital at 11 p.m. diarrheaing, and you know how that does. By morning, he was calling me, telling me nothing had happened. 1 hour later, he told me his wife had passed away. Nothing had happened. So these are issues that need to go to the public domain, need to go to the bodies that matter. But because what I see is MPs are calling on this to save Koros. And the other things that are being put are also to indict Cecily Mbarire. So these are issues that have nothing to do with the KNH.
All right. I think I concur that we really need to investigate what is happening. And the cabinet secretary, other than just sending Lily Koros home, should actually institute investigations to find out what indeed is ailing this hospital. Being a new cabinet secretary, I think that should be part of his first mandate in as far as rescuing and restoring Kenyatta National Hospital to its mandate. Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, we are out of time. Maybe your closing comments and what Kenyans should look forward to in the next few days and months in terms, politically speaking.
I think in Kenya we have to be very happy that the major political protagonists have decided to discard politics and go into development to push Kenya forward. We also must understand that for Kenya to develop, for the government to collect taxes, money must be in the hands of the people, not in the government. So these are issues that are going to come out very clearly immediately the two agree on the way forward.
All right, your closing comments, sir?
I think the handshake should not make Raila Odinga lose focus. There are a number of things that NASA intended to address. One of them was electoral injustice. He needs to make sure that while we are dialoguing and developing the country, that we also stay focused on addressing this issue. The other one was about corruption. And I think as much as we need to develop, this is something that we need to do away with. We need to fight corruption seriously. The other thing was issues to do with the economy and inclusivity. These are issues that Raila Odinga should not just be swayed away, should not forget as he dialogues with Uhuru Kenyatta.
Allow me a sentence on that.
Very briefly.
We expect Raila Odinga to do all those things you have counted without an office, without government funding. Let somebody else try those ones. Because you talk of electoral justice. The elections in Kenya do not lack laws. We have enough laws to guide elections in Kenya. It is the attitude of the contestants that bring all these problems.
Gentlemen, we'll have to wind it up right there. Thank you very much, Calvin Zodoyo and Mwangi Feather this morning for just reviewing the week and giving us an insight of what you think, politically speaking, is happening. For now, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, it's time for us to look at what's happening in the entertainment world. And today, I also have a guest that you certainly want to hear from. She's been a little bit quiet, but she's back on the scene. Find out who that is right here on Morning Express.